Hello and welcome to the DoxTek and ABBYY partner webinar. Thank you everyone that has joined this call. During this webinar, attendees will be put on mute, but if you have any questions, please send them in through the chat feature and they'll be addressed during or after the presentation. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available on the DoxTek website. And we are excited to hear about improved automation in your HR department from our technology partner, Bruce Orcutt, from ABBYY, and he has been with ABBYY for over 5 years and is currently the Senior Vice President of Product Marketing. He has over 20 years in the advanced capture industry, and we're grateful he could join the call today. Without further ado, I would like to turn the time over to Bruce for his presentation.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Amanda. It's certainly a pleasure to be here and joining you and your DoxTek customers. We certainly appreciate the partnership, and hopefully you'll find this information valuable and useful. As Amanda indicated, I've been in the industry for a long time, so if you do have questions, you want to talk about the technology, the capabilities, some scenarios, please do not hesitate to enter the questions in the chat box, and Amanda will flag me at the appropriate time to address them. You know, it's funny, I've been in this industry, as Amanda indicated, for a long time. And originally, if we were talking 18 years ago, when I first did my first HR-related projects, to see where we were then to where we are now is absolutely very transformational. When I first started working in HR on HR problems, I was tasked with trying to solve how to segment and understand CVs and resumes. So back in early 2000, companies were trying to leverage text analytics for the problem of understanding the content within a CV or in a resume for the recruiting purposes. And you can see the types of technologies that have evolved and the investment that's gone on in the HR space since then. But it was interesting to note that while we were busy focused on trying to solve the CV problem and to understand how to segment the CV, understand dates and educations and job histories and just the overall skills and capabilities of a candidate, and then populate the recruiting system with that information. Well, that wasn't financially successful because back then, if you all recall, budgets were very, very tight on technology investments within HR. But that has significantly changed over the past 15 years, and now we see HR becoming much more strategic to the business and their role as a very strategic partner in many aspects of business growth. So we're seeing the transition and pivot in HR and the investments in HR, which are wonderful as a technology provider like ABBYY, working with our great partner DoxTek to deliver solutions. But as you can see from this value proposition and stairway to value that Deloitte has presented, you can see now very much like an enterprise application space or in financial services or insurance, moving from systems of record to systems of engagement, which means that HR is now a partner in the ecosystem that is now working with the customers and the users as if they're true customers of the enterprise business. And that's really great to see. But what we're doing here fundamentally within the HR departments is working on documents and contracts, helping our customers understand information that's part of the onboarding process, offboarding process, any communication and correspondence with the constituents within the enterprise, within the business, that HR needs to understand and manage. And it's helping transform those documents and that content into meaningful data that helps DoxTek build you this entire ecosystem for managing your entire end-to-end HR portfolio and HR onboarding and offboarding and all of the various processes that you have to support internally. So where does ABBYY fit in this ecosystem? We're going to focus today on documents and the documents that you receive as part of your ongoing HR processes. Many times these are contracts. These could be employment agreements, they could be non-disclosure agreements, they could be third-party agreements with other entities related to the use of employee, contractor agreements, all various types of contracts. This information is absolutely critical that you understand the different clauses, the different requirements, understanding the different capabilities that are requirements of the enterprise and your business and also the employees, having that information visible and usable within your HRMS systems. Additionally, we understand that in the United States, you have I-9 requirements. We need to capture identity documents. It's not just for the sake of having a picture of this piece of paper, but also there's data within these documents that's usable and useful to other processes that you may have? Do we want to match addresses to make sure that everything's consistent for this new hire? To make sure that we're not missing something, or not something's not disconnected from what they gave us as a primary address on a utility bill versus what their identity says today. We can do those checks for you automatically and leverage that data to make better decisions. You have the I-9 forms themselves. Many times in the onboarding process, you have various types of documents that you need to receive from your employees to be able to bring them in properly, onboard them properly, make sure they've met all the requirements for being a new hire. So understanding this information contained within these documents and forms helps you have more data about your employees, which not only minimizes risk for you in making a mistake or not understanding a certain benefit someone was entitled to, or a certain category of classification of a particular employee. You have all the information that, available to you to make better decisions, improve your analytics and analysis of your customer base, of your employee pool within your enterprise. And then ultimately, there's all various types of documents that still are part of your employment record. As you go through your career path, there's compensation changes, there's evaluations, there's performance improvement plans, all types of data and information that now needs to come off this paper form, off this electronic document, off this Word document, and then populated into your HR systems. And so this is where ABBYY comes into play, working with DoxTek. So with this growth of content, we are really trying to help customers and our partners understand how do we more properly engage the HR users, engage the employees via the proper channels that they need to be communicating with HR along. And we're seeing a much more broader uptick in mobile. We're seeing a broader uptick in web portals. We're seeing a more electronic engagement with employees through various systems implemented by the enterprise, by IT, and also by your various solution providers. What we're trying to do now is help streamline all that ingest of content that you have, understand what is the contextual relationship of this information, how is it valuable and useful to your business, and then delivering it into whatever the system is that's appropriate for managing this. It could be HRMS, it could be a repository, it could be another workflow or another business tool, but making sure that information ultimately arrives where it's going to be most useful for your leveraging it down as a downstream process. So the various types of processes and document types you have to manage, confidentiality agreements, we spoke about that, the I-9 information, incident reports, training, making sure that, not just they register for training, but let me see an invoice of that training. And we can then read the invoice data from that training to make sure we populate the HRMS system or your repository to specifically identify the exact class that was taken, and we can lift that right off of the communication from the employee when they submit that for reimbursement. Resignation letters, other employment agreements, inquiries, things like that. This content now needs to be understood and managed and delivered to those various systems of record, systems of engagement, whatever that repository or workflow process may be. We want to do that for you, working with DoxTek to build the business rules and the exception logic and the end-to-end processing as part of the solution. So how do we do this? We do this via multiple ways. So obviously you're providing feedback to your employees. You give them portals to download documents. You may email them attachments. You may give them electronic signature items to process via electronic documents. You have multiple points of engagement with your customers, with your employees, and your contractors. And what we're going to do is extend that interface that you're leveraging out to those users, so when they submit content back to you, we're going to automatically receive it, use the ability to understand what document this is, classify the document itself, extract all the meaningful data, the relationships, the entities, the clauses, the things that are important to your systems, and then deliver it in real time to that back-end process for further adjudication. Do we have a mismatch in addresses that we need to create an exception? Do we have a mismatch in pay information because they're providing pay stubs from previous employers that don't match what the compensation plan was being planned for this employee or this employee category, or what the employee communicated verbally? Do we have an exception now? How do we mitigate that exception? And what systems do we need to be integrated with to be able to communicate and engage as employees? And most importantly, what we're seeing more and more of, as I indicated earlier, is the mobile channel as that point of engagement. Don't ask them to fax the document or find a multifunction device on the network somewhere. Go ahead and take a picture of it with your phone and submit it right off your phone. This type of engagement improves employee satisfaction. It makes your services that you're offering to your employees consistent with other services they leverage in their own personal lives, and which obviously increases their acceptance of it and the overall satisfaction they have with leveraging this information. But more importantly, you're now getting more data about your employees that's now leverageable in other systems and analytics to better understand your employees and mitigate either future risk or create new programs or benefits around this information that they've already provided to you. Some characteristics, we see around the HR use case and the HR requirements. They just need information about their employees and candidates. They need to make sure forms are submitted and completed fully. They need accurate data at really low processing costs, because the resources available to an HR process may not be the same resources that would be invested in a customer onboarding scenario where they're driving revenue or differentiating a sales opportunity for the enterprise. They have multiple types of documents that need to be processed, and those documents change. The source of those documents change. They fluctuate in length, in style, and design, and they're highly variable at times. The systems must be smart and trainable, which means the system has to learn from feedback from users, from feedback from the administrators, and over time it improves its overall accuracy and effectiveness. And it needs some quality control, because ultimately the data is the value. The value is the information contained within these documents. And therefore we need to make sure we're delivering high precision in working with DoxTek to build the business rules and processes out, that we understand this information within this employment agreement, this information within this termination information, within this contractor agreement. What are the terms and the clauses in this information, and how do we get that information into a meaningful way into your back-end system so it's more properly managed? And this is what we come into with the ABBYY platform and technologies that are then orchestrated by DoxTek to deliver the value that you require for the specific document types. So we want to understand all this various content that's going to be provided as part of this process. We want to basically automate any cognitive tasks. So we want to mimic human behavior. If we ask somebody to look at a document and tell us what document type that is, we can automate that for you. We can train the classifiers to understand the different types of documents. When they look at the document and read the document, read the contract, read the form, and they tell us, oh, this is the social security number, this is the address, this is the next of kin, we can understand that information as well and do it for you automatically. And that's where this application of technology is so important, because now we can free up your very critical resources that are already stretched and maximized today to make them more effective in delivering other services from your HR department, and relieve some of that burden of the document processing and data extraction and manual processing that they would normally do with a solution of a combined technology from ABBYY with the amazing orchestration and knowledge of DoxTek. And what are we doing here? We're doing multiple technologies, multiple capabilities, multiple keywords and three-letter acronyms that you see on the screen. But basically, we're reading documents. If they're an image, or they're coming off of a camera or off a scanner or off a fax machine, we will do optical character recognition for that. If they're already electronic already because they came as a Word file, an Excel file, we will normalize them to a PDF and maintain all that text available to you, so that way it's searchable. We find all the interesting metadata, we understand what the document type may be, whether it's a structured document like a form, semi-structured document like a sales order, pay stub, or W-2 tax form, or something completely unstructured like an email, or like a letter, a resignation letter, a contract. We can understand all those various spectrum of information to then deliver the content to you. Extraction is very important, because that's where we understand the information within the document, its contextual relationships of who are all the entities within this contract. What are the start dates, the end dates? What is this information saying in here that's important for the HRMS system or your repository or your workflow to understand? And then we use natural language processing to deal with some of the unstructured information. So we teach these systems with advanced technology that understands words and language, and therefore helps save the time of someone reading the document and finding out what are the various clauses where the system can do that for you automatically or assist you in doing that to make your time more effective. So here's a little look at the technology stack. Now, the technology is applicable to many use cases. HR is important because there's a lot of documents in the onboarding and offboarding and in some of the compliance cases. But the same technologies and capabilities can be reused in multiple areas of the enterprise. So if we understand how to read IDs for processing I-9 forms, the same technology can be used for reading IDs in a new account opening or onboarding scenario as well. And that's where DoxTek can come in to help orchestrate the right framework and the right solution. But it is primarily used in the onboarding of customers, onboarding of your employees, offboarding of your employees, and then managing the various content throughout their careers that are being submitted to your systems, that are being asked of them to sign, or notifications that are important for them to understand. And we have multiple products that support these capabilities. Our goal is to digitize everything that comes in as analog. So the first thing we always want to do is make sure it's digital, readable, in the normalized format, in a standard format that is leveraged by your key backend systems. You may love getting Word documents, but your system of record wants PDFs that are searchable. We'll normalize that. Or if you get an image or a photo that was taken at home by an employee of their workers' comp statement, right, and they email that to you, we're going to convert that into something that's searchable and readable in addition to preserving the image. So now you have usable information off that document that was engaged at your employee who's at home recovering from an injury. They're able now to submit this to you, and we can give you all the necessary data associated with that document, so that way it's more seamlessly integrated into the process, and you can give them their benefit or give them their status change or whatever that process or next step may be. We classify information, as I spoke about, and ultimately extract various types of insight and data, which makes understanding relationships and content very, very important. And what that does when we talk about extraction, we're freeing up your critical resources from manually spending time reviewing documents and entering information to now they're focused on providing better services and benefits. And we will solve that problem for you with the design of DoxTek. And ultimately, it integrates to whatever system or workflows you want to be working with. In many times you might have a beautiful Highland system implemented by DoxTek that you want to leverage for all content. Other times you may have various systems that are combining multiple technologies and workflows and business process management tools that we then would integrate with. This is where you work with DoxTek to define what are my systems that I'm engaging the customers with, my users with, and then what systems am I sending data to make better decisions, improve the workflow, and improve their experience. The benefit is we can support whatever that use case would be, and whatever the back-end system or workflow or content repository is your standard within your enterprise. So the traditional process is very, very straightforward. It's from any data source. So if your users are distributed and they only have access to fax machines, we'll use fax. If they want to use the mobile device, we'll use mobile. Want to use email? Email's a great tool. You want to use a document scanner or a multifunction device in the various remote offices? Not a problem at all. The idea is that you can standardize on one platform, and we can engage your users via any source that makes the most sense for them, based upon their geographic position, based upon language, based upon their education and experience and ability to use technology. We can then create the right user experience. Information has come in, we process it, we're matching data, we're checking business rules, handling exceptions, making sure the information is complete, and then delivering it, like I said, to the various systems of record. And this is all about engagement, providing the right interface to the users so they're happy with the process. They don't feel like it's a burden to them. And most importantly, it's faster. It accelerates these processes, these transactions, ensures the onboarding is done quickly. The SLAs are much more narrow now. We're delivering more data and information that's contextual in nature about the information, about your employee, about the various things that are going on as part of this agreement, this contract, this communication. And now you have much more data for analytics to assess your users, your customers, your employees as to behaviors, backgrounds, trends, and things like that. You can use really nice analytics tools to understand them better. And most importantly, in the end, there's a lot of strong governance and business rules and logic around compliance in the end, because now you have control over this content and messages. So, and now I want to give an example use case that we've seen come up a few times. And this is dealing with wellness. And it's a new area of HR that we're seeing HR departments get involved in. And it requires a combination of great upfront web portals and capture technology with extremely sophisticated back-end systems, which is the great expertise of DoxTek. But in this case, you're presenting your users, they get a benefit from the company if they go to a wellness check. And therefore, HR is a strong partner in this wellness education and wellness promotion to be able to communicate to the employees the benefits of going through wellness. And the overall benefits for the company are tremendous by getting better insurance rates, healthier employees, fewer sick days. So in this case, DoxTek can create an environment for you to go out and create a portal for users to log in and generate these health forms, these wellness forms. They're personalized. They can then take them to their physician, if it's their physician, or they can be done at an internal health fair, and these can be completed. The data is then received via email, via fax, via web upload, all those wonderful channels I spoke about earlier. And then DoxTek configures the system to understand the information, extract the data, and then populate the wellness system. And then once the wellness system is populated, which could be a repository, a workflow, a third-party platform, a cloud platform, it could be various sources, you can then kick off the process of giving benefits and suggestions and health tips to your employees. So it's a very interesting use case that we're seeing more and more of as it relates to HR. And it's leveraging very traditional technologies that DoxTek implements for customers every day. So it's an interesting example. Hopefully you found it useful. And in the end, I just want to close with a couple statements around content intelligence and artificial intelligence. So the ability to understand a contract is rather complex. It's like reading a CV. You know all the information about a user. You can describe it in a resume saying there's job history, there's educational history, there's job skills, there's their name, their address, their start dates, end dates, different employers. But now we have to use AI and artificial intelligence and natural language processing and text analytics to understand that information. And this helps us provide better answers and results without having to leverage human capital to train the system, to review the data, and to handle exceptions. So AI is a very, very important part of this. And we leverage DoxTek and their expertise to help train the systems to understand what information we're expecting from your users and your customers, to then make sure the system delivers a high level of accuracy and confidence that we're getting the data correct and right. And so AI is providing a very, very important aspect of this solution stack, and we're really excited to see some of the amazing implementations we're doing in conjunction with DoxTek for our mutual customers. And there's a lot of excitement ahead. You know, 20 years ago when I was working on Oracle eRecruit and PeopleSoft HRMS, trying to understand and segment a CV and a resume, the amount of spend and investment in HR was very different than what we're seeing today as HR becomes more strategic. And the idea of how these HR systems now are converging from various different discrete technologies that are amazing technologies in and of themselves, and then how they need to be orchestrated as one global or one single platform and capability and sharing of information and things. And so it's a really exciting time to be a technology provider in the HR space. I just want to close by commenting again that documents are absolutely critical to HR. We help customers understand these documents, understand the content within documents, and do it in a very straightforward, meaningful way with fast response times. We leverage the content that's available within these documents to automate the processes and improve the overall execution for the business and for the employee well-being, but also improve the data that's available then for further analytics and data analysis of your employee base. And then ultimately, in the end, it's about delivering better services to your employees, faster response times, more data, more information, and improved employee satisfaction. Because in the end, they're the customers for these technologies and these capabilities, and we need to make it easy for them, make it painless for them, and that's why just taking a picture of a piece of paper and letting us with DoxTek solve the rest of the problem makes it very easy for the user to accept.